Happy Thursday, guys. This is Barb with Inspire Me 360, and in this video I wanted to talk about negative word forms or negative communication styles and how they can really affect our overall self-esteem, consciousness, and really semblance of reality over time. And you can think of, well, whether it is positive or negative speech as sort of a kind of brainwashing that affects how we see reality over the long term. So one of the things that I want to talk about first in this particular video is the use of sarcasm. Now, in a way, sarcasm can seem like a type of humor and a way of communicating that is positive or can be kind of bathed in a positive light. However, it's actually a very sneaky and insidious way to chip away at somebody's self-esteem and wrap it in a pretty bow. And I'm going to explain what I mean by this. So continually, if what you are hearing is a dialogue of where you are lacking, what is flawed in you, how you are not, the most beautiful emanation of yourself. So I'm going to give a real world experience. Let's say somebody is making fun of the way that you cook, or telling you that you're old and ugly and wrinkly, even if they're wrapping it in kind of a sarcastic, meant to be funny transference of this verbal dialogue. What's happening in your brain and in the subconscious mind is, over time, your subconscious really only understands the word forms, and it's creating this vision or this version of you from this symbolism as, you aren't articulate in, say, cooking, or you are not, physically attractive. However that sarcasm is going to show up, it's a form of very tactical belittlement. And over time, it has this effect of dimming one's light, and that propensity of, again, specific and targeted belittlement delivered in little increments over time will cause you, or will cause a person's self-esteem to kind of go like this, and until it gets lower and lower and lower. And that's the problem with this type of dialogue that sarcasm basically presents itself as. It is a very, very sneaky way of hurting another person, but trying to make it seem like you're doing it for a humorous purpose or an entertainment purpose. So if you're somebody that subscribes to sarcasm or utilizes it in a regular way, this isn't specifically, me trying to teach an attack against the way that you communicate. It's just a cause for either somebody that is receiving a lot of sarcasm or giving a lot of sarcasm to take pause and really examine this type of dialogue and examine it through a more discerning lens, whereby we look at the effects of those kind of verbal communication styles on the self-esteem of the other. Even if you are a parent and you are used to sort of criticizing your children in this way, through sort of a sarcastic but funny lens, you have to know that, especially if you have very sensitive children, they are going to pick up on this, and they're going to assimilate it as there is a deficit or a deficiency within them. I know myself, being a very sensitive child, I was very sensitive to what any other person was saying to me, and any kind of dialogue that was directed to me, because of the way that I like to analyze everything, I would take the words quite literally, even if they were sarcastic. And I think actually a lot of people do take what is said quite literally, but they start to get, what we would call a thick skin, so they become kind of cold to whatever kind of communication style is coming at them. But at a deeper core level, most people do not enjoy being the butt of the jokes or having that sarcasm projected towards them. So other type of, negative speech or negative dialogue can be directed critical or directed criticism. So if somebody in your life or yourself is, really consciously criticizing others without offering a way for them to maybe maneuver or a certain level of understanding with that criticism, it is something that has the power to really tear that other person down. And again, make you the sort of a self-generating negative vortex. And so how can we highlight things that might be something that another person would want to change without specifically tearing them down and criticizing them? I have to do this all the time within my companies. I have to look at improvements that we need to make, but I never want to make it a personal thing, like the individual themselves, they are the problem, or something about them specifically is the issue. I like to look at it more as how could we make this better? This, a situation exists, or something that is in our external reality isn't quite what we'd like to see it manifest as. So let's look at how we would like to improve it, and look at suggestions for how we could maybe maneuver some of our behaviors, our actions, our verbal communication to try to make a better version of what we're seeing right now. And when you approach it in this way, you're never coming from a place of attack or criticism on the other. It's more like you're involving them in the problem solution process, and then they become vested in it and they become excited about it, and they don't feel like you are attacking them. So in terms of other negative forms of communication that we can examine, so specifically bullying, when individuals are in our environment that are specifically and deliberately taking time to hurt us through their words. This is, again, another level of really directed negativity. And I've certainly been privy to this for almost most of my life. When I was very young, I was always very, very diligent to my studies. I loved working on my school projects, and I was what you would consider a nerd, in school. And obviously when children or young people are perceiving you in this way, they will have this sometimes very targeted, very mean speech. And I understand that's part of what kids do, and obviously in my adulthood doesn't specifically bother me at this point anymore. But I will take this a step further, because again, some of that very directed, hurtful dialogue has continued to affect me into my current reality. What do I mean by this? When I was going through school and certain groups specifically targeted me as an individual and, would make fun of my appearance, would make fun of my quietness, would make fun of, sort of the gamut of different things that kids pick on. One of the specific things that this one group of kids did was to continually, whether it would be to call me or there really wasn't the internet yet. There was a little bit of it, but not in the way that we have it now. So again, this specific group of kids that sort of followed me from junior high school to high school, it would be phone calls, because young kids used to prank call people. It would be written notes in class, things written on the washroom stalls, all of these different, or verbally spoken, but specifically telling me to kill myself or telling me to end my life. I remember one particular call where a group of girls that was in my school called me when I think I was in about grade 9, and it lasted for about 20 minutes, but all of them were on the phone and they just kept telling me that I should kill myself and that it would do everybody a favor. And the reason I'm bringing this up, I'm not in a victimization mode in this regard. And at the time, yes, it was devastating for me to go through these things throughout my school journey. And when I was a young person, it was very, very damaging in terms of experiencing this sort of pervasive depression from it. But I want to take it a step further, because again, I've went through these very targeted experiences in high school and also in my later years in running companies. There's a lot of individuals that can attack a person now very secretively through online forums, through posting, writing on posts, writing on advertising. And so I've really experienced this almost the entirety of my life. And the trouble with any type of negative sort of bullying type of dialogue is that it plants a seed. It plants a thought seed in that individual's mind. And the more pervasive the bullying, the more one's consciousness will gravitate to that kind of manifested idea form that is put within the consciousness. And I think that is so important from a psychological perspective for anyone dealing with mental health issues to understand the gravity of these kind of negative speech patterns or negative dialogues, these negative ideas, and how powerfully they can impact an individual for the rest of their lives. I truly believe that these things should be taught in school, how to have nonviolent communication, how to lift each other up, the principles of kindness and compassion, and why we would want to integrate these mechanisms for communication into the learning for our children globally. I think it would be a beautiful way and a very easy way to enhance our educational system. But really why I'm talking about this is because, again, if you have gone through any kind of negative programming in terms of your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, it does take a lot of diligence to undo some of this kind of verbal brainwashing that can happen over a lifetime. And it's really, again, this replacement therapy. The minute that your brain is gravitating to a certain thought form, you have to be aware enough of that kind of planted or implanted thought form that you may not have put there willingly, that may have come from external forces. You need to uproot it and replace it with something positive. And because, again, sometimes it can take a lifetime of experiencing these very negative dialogue forms, it can take quite a lot of time through this cognitive behavioral therapy or this replacement therapy to start to bring the ship back around and direct it towards a really high output of positivity in terms of what we experience. And I think we're so quick to gravitate for an easy fix if we're dealing with negative thinking or this low vibrational thinking. And certainly as well, I want to bring up one final point, that when we, let's say, medicate, when we take somebody and we medicate them or dumb down the conscious mind to what is happening in their external reality, what we do is almost open a larger gateway for negativity to be absorbed by the subconscious mind. So what do I mean by this? Let's say we give a child or we give an individual an antidepressant or an anti-anxiety medication. And now, because emotionally they're not receiving the same triggers from what is happening in their external world, they're able, or their subconscious is able to absorb a lot more darkness. So they can watch a horror movie, or they can watch very negative things in their external reality, or absorb a lot of negativity without pinging to that normal emotional response. But what happens again is this sort of brainwashing to acclimate to this lower vibrational synthesis of reality. And the reason that we have this emotional feedback loop that's always giving us a read back to our external reality is so that we can move to a higher plane of existence. It's so that we can say, this is not serving us. Whatever is happening out here, whatever dialogue is coming at me, communication, environment, this is making me anxious. This is making me really feel at a low state. So therefore, I must take action and either remove myself from the environment, shut off the negative thought forms that are streaming in, or do whatever I have to do to recalibrate my emotional state. And the problem with medicating the population so that they are not self-aware enough to recalibrate is we see this continual lowering of the vibrational consciousness of humanity. So again, I'm making these videos in terms of allowing individuals to take pause and to really evaluate everything that is in their environment in terms of what they are receiving, what's streaming into their sort of conscious vessel that everyone is occupying. We're all occupying this little tiny space, and that is a body, and we have this mind. We have the conscious mind and we have the subconscious mind, and we have that awareness behind both of them, which is existing, which is existence. And although this I am portion of us, or this higher self portion of us, is observing, what I found is it's also observing with a gentle nudge in the direction of what we need to do to illuminate, self-illuminate, or ascend that which is the conscious mind and the subconscious mind into a higher projection of consciousness and of reality. So I don't want to get too wordy with all of this. I know it's a lot for my Thursday morning as well. But think about it. Think about, again, the words that you're saying that become the actions that you take, and how you are affecting the world and how the world has affected you. And take the steps that you can each and every day to start to reprogram your conscious and your subconscious mind so that you are a better version of yourself for the world. Okay, I'm gonna sign off, guys, but have a great rest of your day.